What you're looking at is a portable radio, and as you already know from the title on the video, it's a 5A, 7A from 1949 or thereabouts, maybe a little bit earlier, but pretty much 1949. Probably introduced in 1950. Little portable radio. It can also work off electricity out of the wall. We have here a B battery connection that has that 67.5 volts. It also took two D cell batteries. One went in this compartment here, right there, and the other one went down here. You just stick your battery in there. There was a, I don't know if you can see down in there too well, there's a spring down in there, just like a flashlight. And low voltage filaments on the tubes, just like a Transoceanic by Zenith. 1R5, 1U4, 1S5, and a 3S4. And I've already started changing out some of the caps on it. The electrolytics have been taken care of. Next I have to work on the yellow ones that you see there. They've all got to go. Put some new stuff in there. And this rectifier, this selenium rectifier, is bad. So that's got to go too. So we'll get rid of it, you know. Try to get this thing playing again. I don't know if I will. We're going to give it the old college try. Over here is the case for it. And the latch is this Motorola symbol. And it moves up and down, up and down. And when you moved it up, the thing would release and the lid automatically popped open on a spring. And right here is where the on-off switch stuck through, which is this little deal right here. And when you close the lid, this round thing right here, let me see if I can show it a little better, that round thing right there would hit against this, and it pushes it in like that and shuts the radio off. Now when you release the latch and the lid pops open by itself, spring-loaded lid, the button would pop out and the radio would automatically come on. And your tuner is here, and your volume is here. So there is no on-off switch other than this one right here, which automatically activates when the lid comes open. In the lid is where the antenna is, just like it was in the Zenith Transoceanics. But you know, this is really cool and neat stuff and all that, and you know, it's a Motorola. It's been called, I saw on the internet where someone had called it a purse radio. So I don't know, maybe it wound up in ladies' purses at one time because it was portable. And the back, you know, it's got a metal piece that goes across the on the chassis, and it's got the Motorola AC/DC 15-watt self-contained batteries and a little bit of information in here and everything, and kind of neat. And you know, just like the Zenith, the plug, the electrical plug would have to be plugged into these two little holes here on the back of the chassis, which are down in there, those two holes, in order to get it to work on battery power. But that's not the thing that concerns me about this radio. You know, to me, it's a radio. You know, another radio that needs to be repaired. And yeah, it's neat and all that, but not really my cup of tea as far as radios go. I like the wooden types. However, what we have here is a big gouge on the front of this radio, right through the Motorola emblem on the front, which is the latch. Now, you know, you go into a flea market and you say, oh man, look at that. That is ruined. How the heck did that happen? Nice little radio like that. And then you begin to think, now how could that have happened? You know, every little thing you can think of, you try to come up with as a solution as to how that happened. Well, guess what? I know how that happened. And by the end of this video, you're going to know how it happened. So another radio, another story. Stick around. Well, after that long lead-in, let me welcome everyone back again to the corner on the deck. This is New Year's Eve. Tomorrow is a brand new year, and there's no telling what it'll bring. But we're still on this little radio right here. This little radio belongs to a fellow named Jimmy. I repaired a radio for him not too long ago, that Forest Green Crosley. I did a YouTube video on it, you may remember. Well, he got back with me through my workmate Gary, who's his brother-in-law, and he asked me if I'd fix this radio for him as well. I said, well, of course I will. A while back, Jimmy was called down to Louisiana, and his great uncle handed him this radio and said, I want you to have this. It used to belong to your great-great-grandmother. She's the one that bought it. Well, Jimmy was, he was happy about that. That's great. Sure, I'll take that. It turns out that his great-great-grandmother, whose name was Sarah, I hope I don't mess this up, but her name was Sarah. She sold eggs and saved her nickels and dimes and pennies until she got up enough money to buy this radio for $4.95. And she lived in Alabama at the time. And it was the only entertainment in her house. And they were really proud of this radio. She was very proud of this radio. It was they had no television, nothing. Well, later on, Sarah moved to Concord, Arkansas, where her daughter Beulah was living. And now Beulah would be Jimmy's great-grandmother. And she moved close to her daughter, and a couple times a week they would get together and do the ironing. Now, they may have done it at Sarah's house, they may have done it at Beulah's house, probably the daughter's house. She'd probably haul it or go down at least help her iron. It was kind of a social event back in those days, and she would haul this radio along with her. And they would set this radio on the ironing board and sit there and iron and make a day out of it. Daughter and mother. And this was back in the early 50s, by the way. And one day they got the iron too close to the lid, and that's how that trench got burned in there. The iron touched it. And someone tried to do a little fix on it to get it to work, but they never did do very good to get the lid to work very well. It's a cheap latch. I got it to work somewhat. And I believe I've got the entire radio repaired and operational, and hope that Jimmy will be satisfied. So now you know the story of Sarah's radio. Starting out in Alabama, winding up in Arkansas, still in Arkansas, or Alabama to Arkansas, back to Louisiana, and now back to Arkansas. So let's open it up and see if it works. If it does, we'll call this video over, and from the corner on the deck, this is John.
Religious festival, religious feast. Something must be very...
Level attack. Many children are not as fortunate as our own. This holiday season, let's open our hearts to the disadvantaged children in our community.
A while back I told you that in one of my other videos, the Silvertone 4206, I told you that repairing these radios isn't always peaches and cream if you decide to someday become a repairman. Now here's a classic example. This is what it took to get this radio to play. All these jumper wires, and some of them are attached over here to the multimeter. I'm monitoring the filament voltage on those 1.5 volt tubes, or 1.4 volt tubes. I want to keep my eye on that. But this is what it sometimes takes to get a radio to play. Copious amounts of jumper wires, gator wires we call them.
What do you do for an encore? Fall asleep?